Yo, it's been a while. Whew, good amount of things happening. It's been, kind of nuts. Just trying to get things together. Something very cool that happened last week, and kind of just placed me to think about a lot of things. Um, Basically, went to a brainstorming group, spoke about certain issues that I've had or have been having with business and all that, and something like a large amount of thing came up, um, including pricing and self-worth. But something that really struck the most and kind of put me in this zone where I had to just take a step back from everything and rethink about the last few years was basically the work that I was doing. And there seemed to have came a point where I was trying to obsess over inking while my line work would just, or my sketch work, the very loose sketch work was just going miles beyond. And like, I might as well show you, I picked up some of that sketch work. Whoever's been following me on Instagram, there came a point where I was making fun of or doing certain sketches about what the two best friends were going through, certain games like Parasite Eve, Holston, Jim Sterling, and a couple of other things. So there's something that came up. Like I just picked up a lot of these works, and might as well go through them. Let's see if I can make this work. This could kind of work. So where that was around the same year. The type of paper, of course, is something I'm gonna have to reorder, but it doesn't really make a bit of a difference in a sense. Okay, it makes. I love that paper. Okay, it makes somewhat of a difference, but not in the process or in the realization that I'm gonna tell you about. So this was for a company that I used to work for, and I still consider that a bit of a waste of time because, of course, the whole contest was something else. And when it comes to contests, never again, even if it's an internal company contest. You guys remember Phalis? Well, he was doing a Mortal Kombat TV series analysis and talk, and some of this shit was kind of funny, so I just drew it while watching the episode and went with the whole joke. Commission from DeviantArt. Even though this one has some blue lines under, so I kind of did an underdrawing, it still kind of turned out well. Parasite Eve, the endgame gun. Two best friends were playing Parasite Eve at that time, so I had to make fun of how the endgame gun would be fully customized like that. Pulled out those sheets or those drawings just to scan them soon. Jim Sterling, always gotta bring out the Jim Sterling because during that time, I liked his material back at that point, and I still like what's the whole drama debacle that's happening with Digital Homicide. I'm still keeping up to date because Digital Homicide, the developer wise, no class. But yeah, like again, this was just done on the spot while watching an episode and just trying to make fun of a couple of things. Markiplier, Five Nights at Freddy Free came out and or was about to come out, and it's like, well, Markiplier, you'd better get ready because they're coming for you again. Again, this was done on the spot. There's a trend, there's a pattern for it. Doing some old extra stage design work, yet the ironic part, I might still go back and possibly use these designs. I know some of these characters I've changed, especially this one. I think I've completely changed um, because I came up with a better design. This one I used for an EA parody as well, and I wanted to tie both, but nah. Some Walking Dead Michonne. Again, done on the spot. Like, I'm not gonna stop reinforcing that point on the spot, and you'll see why. Old extra stage design. I changed her design midway for volume, so that whole thing goes to scrap. Banana Hair Ken, when they announced this, or when they announced the character change, you know. Yakuza 5 presentation, Seijima. Like, again, even though red lines, just going for it. Alright? Just going and gone for it. This was for Delia. Now Bombshell. I forgot. She changed nicknames like 55 times. So I can't keep up. But I used to watch her a lot on DeviantArt. Then I just lost track with DeviantArt. Making fun of how the new Killer Instinct didn't have a fatality. Because hell, Mortal Kombat X or Mortal Kombat 9 at the time just went overkill. Like, there's just Final Fantasy Mystic Quest fighting against the Dark King. Hell, still, I think that was my first Final Fantasy ever. It's either that or it was 6 back at the time, which was weird. Really bloody weird. A friend of mine kept bringing games and various games, so I know I played 6 before 4, and I don't know if I finished Mystic Quest before finishing 6 and then finishing 4. My best friend played 5, but that was through other means. Angry Joe, I had to do Angry Joe again on the spot, and I guess you guys can see where it's going, or where all that is going. Hell, anything else that's kind of interesting? More extra stage. Love working on extra stage. I really need to go back to that. Making fun of Harper getting kicked out of Canada. Oof, a project that I still have files for, but never really completed. And who knows? I might just continue that, pull it out one day. It's a really simple project, but I don't know what stopped it. I guess it's mostly time and other thing. And Spoonie hates everything. More Fayless kind of parody. Doggy080, $1.99 plus tax. So PewDiePie in space. Jeez. So there's a common thing with all these drawings, okay? And this is something that kind of makes a bit of a difference compared to the background that you're kind of seeing on my computer, or you've used to see the things that I've done recently. And basically, when it comes to sketch lines and sketch work, I just go at it directly, and I get a much, again, it's a personal thing, okay, but it's basically being a bit self-aware in that regards, where I used to just go at it and do the result, and okay, the sketch is not good, all right, toss it next, and always going at it very trying to infuse life into it, but on the spot, not just saying, okay, well, I'm gonna do it in red, then I'm gonna pass over with something else, and yada yada yada. There was an amount of confidence that I had where I would just go at it, not really care to be exactly accurate, but just trying to bring it out, you know? And like looking at the last few months and looking at, you know, some my whole parkour when it comes to artwork, there's always been this switch of having these good moments and then going back to trying to ink, trying to do digital painting, trying to do digital this. And like after thinking about it, it's like, well, okay, two things. One, I kept looking at other artists, people that inspire me, like Patrick Brown, Glenn Keane to a certain degree, but Glenn Keane is much more rough, and this is where I'm heading to in a sense, or where I find myself most comfortable at. People from Riot Games and all that, and in the end, that's not what I do. It's really not what I do. This whole fully colored, fully, or let's say fully inked, and refined outlines, it's not what I do. It's just not what I do. And the second factor is listening to advices from people who do not know me or know the type of work I want to do. And that's been a consistent problem even back in college. And you know, this whole I want to try to please people, or I want to try to get up to certain standards, or imaginary standards that you set in your head, instead of doing like what Doggy said in one of his videos, and I should post a link in the video. Just do you. There's Let's not dismiss, there's a certain base that you need to acquire when it comes to artwork, knowing the fundamentals and all that. But then the rest is you keep pushing your work, and you don't try to fit into standards. You don't try to limit yourself to certain standards. And it's tough. It's really tough because, well, for me, there's always this idea that, okay, well, the industry's gonna like certain things, so I should try to get to this point. But it's like, well, I'm at a point where I'm like, who gives a damn about the industry? I just want to do my own thing. And now I'm just going back to that, and it's like, okay, well, why am I listening to these certain people? Like when I used to do the OC Battle Forum, I was like listening to a bunch of people that haven't really gone where they wanted to go, why am I listening to people in school that do not want to do animation or this kind of drawing? Why am I listening to people that just do not want or understand, or maybe have other standards, like looking at Riot Games and such things, trying to tell me, who wants to go into this animation flow, what to do? And it's blunt to say, but it's like, well, I gotta stop, like, put these people aside and just look. Your advice doesn't run with what I'm trying to go for. Like, not being blunt and saying, well, sorry, your advice is shit, but just going, well, if you can't understand the separation between what one person wants and your personal standards, then there's no discussion at all. And at the same time, it's logical. It's just, again, looking back at my work, instead of wasting all that time trying to ink, trying to get something going with inks, I could have used that time to, and a lot of people told me that during the brainstorming sequence, you could have used that extra time to figure out a way to put color on your sketch lines. Find a way digitally. It's been done, it can be done, and I could try to ask people about that, And it makes a lot of sense. One time wasted could have been placed into another time and be much more productive. And at this point, I could have went all the way to trying to do fully colored pieces from my sketch work. Sketch work that I often, or at times, shade to add volume. Like, there's a whole different approach I could have taken instead of being focused on inking or trying to do digital painting and trying to get into that flow. If it didn't work, then why continue? Or, not saying if it didn't work, but if it's not my preferred method, if it's not my preferred flow, or if it's stifling my flow or blocking my process, then why do I give a damn? Why constantly hit that wall? It may be a wall that doesn't need to be broken down. It's an interesting wall, but if I have much more flow, much more agility, much more intuition going with rough type work, then eventually I can find a way to make it all work, like using my electrical eraser, not mechanical eraser, electrical eraser, to just clean it up a bit, but still try to keep the volume and the flow and the life into it. Like, it doesn't need to be a set pattern. And that's the thing with art. Art goes with, there are the principles, or you say the basics, but then after that, once you know the basics, like proportion, contour, character, consistency, conception, and then the planes, the patterns, the placement, the perspective, the proportion, you can just do your own thing, because you already know the basic, the pillars. And it's been a pain in the ass because I've had those pillars for a while. The only thing that just kept me hindered was just trying to do like other artists that I've seen online, or getting advice from people, or getting that pressure / advice from people who do not know what I want to do or how the whole art journey is. So it's like, well, wow, it's kind of interesting. And that kind of pushes me back to the concept of mentorship, where mentorship is, I personally find it better than school, because your mentor knows where you want to go and wants to try to help push you towards this direction while teaching you at the same time. Not simply telling you you have to follow the rules like this, like I am teaching you, or else you're gonna fail. You know, it's not a bullshit grading thing. You know, so it's kind of interesting just looking at it, looking back at it, and then just getting bombarded with that truth. Um, so for that whole week and a bit more, it kind of put me in a pause where I'm like, okay, well, wow, now I can see how often that happened, and how it kind of created a weird mini cycle where, like I explained, I would take certain jobs thinking that it would get me somewhere in the industry, but then some of these jobs are not the things that I do. So, you see the morale gauge just because, like, doing interfaces, I'm not that type of person unless I can make like a custom, let's say, creative type of interface, kind of like Persona 4. I really like their interface, so if I would work on a project that allowed me to do that or gave me the time to do that, and I did do a few interface for Dark Elite which were similar, only one. But I've taken another interface contract, and it's like, okay, well, it's not what I do. It's not. It's blunt. It doesn't give me the creativity. So it's like, well, again, it's trying to do something for a standard that I thought was there, or a standard that I thought had to be done. And it's like, well, who cares? I'm looking again at my portfolio on my main web page, and the ROM HQ on Wix, and it's like, well, I do so many things, yet a lot of it is not what I really want to do. There are certain times where my inking kind of goes well with a cartoony flow, like with the Undertale banner or thumbnail that I did for Ye Old Tavern. But if, like, I just want to imagine, what if I kept like my usual approach of just going at it straight with black lines and figuring out. I did the concepts before, so it would just be applying the concepts that I've sketched out in an actual situation. How would that apply? How much life would there be on it? And how would I make it work as a thumbnail from sketched lines? Like, there's this whole process, and I guess it's trying not to be safe, but keeping to what I do, and maybe looking back at it, I tried inking, or tried to stick with inking because it was safe, because I could do paint bucket and get a whole area with a single color and then just work from that. But even then, I kept with cell shading, which maybe it's not my flow. I do have some good moves, or certain good moves in cell shading, like adding light to it or having a little light trick, but maybe it's not necessarily my flow. So it's just figuring things out in that regard, and then being able to give that service, that passion, that emotion, that life, that work to others at a convenient, well, not a convenient price, but a price that goes for the work that it's done, the work that was put into it. And it's properly analyzing that as well. So it's weird. It's interesting, because at the same time, now I had to take that step back and being like, well, okay, wow, that's interesting. How do I make it work now? And I'm still going through that process. It's still like, okay, well, this whole inking thing's gotta go, and I'm gonna need to work and not discover, but manage to not exactly figure out a technique yet, work my way, constantly work towards being able to add color to these sketch works, and then seeing how far that can go, because hell, that could even blend into painting, the sketch work on top of it. You know, it's just trying to go at it. But the first step is just do you. You know, don't try to copy others necessarily. You get the fundamentals. You can get some tricks from other people as well. I mean, I've learned a lot from the old Disney animators when it comes to simplification and construction. But when it comes to, let's say, their lines directly, I'm gonna step away from that, you know? And the same goes for any other artist, like coloring or inking. I just have to take that journey on my own. And being self-aware enough of my work to understand what am I missing, what can I push further, and what's blocking me. And then what I can pick and choose from other things to just push, but never straying away from a path by saying, oh well, there are standards up here that I need to follow. Never again. It's been a waste, because all that time trying to achieve these supposed standards, I could have got better at what I do, especially that I have the fucking basics. I think that's the part that kind of infuriated me the most. So, what does that mean? Well, gonna see what's gonna happen. There are certain contracts like situations that, of course, I gotta continue and clear and also learn from. But for my next offers, this is when I need to just, okay, let's not fuck around. If I want to give my maximum, I know where I was able to give my maximum. And instead of thinking about what they would want, I need to just offer the maximum, and just no retreat, no surrender. And that doesn't mean being stubborn with concepts and all that. No, it just means just I know my line work. I know that's kind of like the maximum I can give at this state. Why not offer the maximum, you know? And the same goes with concept work. I can do concept work in that same vein. So, keeping to that. It's been kind of interesting, because at the same time I was looking back at extra stage 1, 2, 3, and 4, and I'm like, well, 4, I was trying to do digital sketching, but there are a few pages where it's like, it hit, you know? And I gotta keep just going into that direction. When it comes to, let's say, digital sketching, it's very similar to the way I sketch on paper. At certain times there's a small delay, but you know, I'm figuring things out. So just, you know, not trying to put self-hindrance, but trying to go through the path, and also never forgetting the basics that I've learned, and then trying to blend it all together with the path I want to take. It's kind of odd to say, you know, but learning about anatomy, learning about value and composition, it all fits in. It's just not trying to block myself with stupid little things like saying the standard has to be there. But anyway, repeating myself. So it's been quite interesting, and I'll see if I can record some more live videos like that, because when it comes to digital sketching and recording that, I have to do it on a tablet, and it doesn't seem to work unless I put the camera on my Surface. Could be interesting. Anyway, sorry for the delay again, but there is something that's coming up. Hoping that it's at the beginning of next month. Just trying to get things up, trying to get the scripting up, and things are slowly rebalancing, especially when it comes to contract work. It's settling down, so time to get shit done, right? Oh, and Street Fighter 5, man, 1 hour every day just to get the stress off. Lovely game, except the rage quitters. Anyway, more on that later, but gonna have to end it here. I will see you guys soon with some more updates. Again, gotta thank Petit Night Production, or Petit Night, for supporting me on Patreon. You saw him, an icon I made in the credits of the Stories. Whew, Stories Path of Destiny. Stories should be coming out soon, from what I hear. Keep up to date. This is going to be quite interesting, and some people already know what's the next thing I got planned for you, so I don't want to spoil it. Hell, I just want to keep my head into the game and say, okay, well, let's just do it. All right. Better planning for that too. Anyhow, more updates coming soon. See you soon.